All of this data is released or somebody is processing it, it creates a huge challenge actually. How we make sense of this data. And the challenge is, if there's too much information, it becomes very difficult to decide what is truthful information. What should I really do, when you have too many options, like most attention. But when a female member is sick at a home, बोलते नहीं क्रोसिन दे दो ठीक हो जाएगी कल दिन परसों दिन ठीक हो जाएगी. So and eventually what happens? Women actually, and that is a sad reflection of our society still, women do not get a medical attention at home in the same way a male person gets.
You have, of course, the well-established legacy media brands, the big newspapers, big TV channels. You have a large number of websites. I happen to run one, The Wire. There are lots of others.
जिनके लिखी 2 किताबों पर वेब सीरीज ने बनाई
और हिंदी इंग्लिश दौर में मेरी अच्छी पकड़ थी, लेकिन कभी सीरियस राइटिंग मैंने कभी की नहीं. उसके बाद IIT के वहाँ भी लिखता था, लोगों के एसेज वगैरह मैं लिख देता था, और खुद कभी सीरियस नहीं. मन में हमेशा था कि मैं भी किताब कभी लिखूंगा. मैंने कुछ लिखना शुरू किया IIT के अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस को, फिर उसको आधे में मैंने छोड़ दिया. और वही चीज़ मेरे बैचमेट मेरे दोस्त चेतन भगत ने बाद में लिखी 5 पॉइंट सामान में. वो बहुत ही फेमस, मतलब इंटरनेशनल फेमस को मिला. और उसके बाद मुझे अपने आप से काफ़ी डिसअपॉइंटमेंट हो कि मैंने क्यों नहीं लिखा. आलस में रह गया क्योंकि पुलिस की नौकरी में टाइम भी कम था और साथ में लगता था कि क्या लिखना, तो सब कुछ ठीक ही है. मेरी तीनों किताबें जो मैंने लिखी तीसरी में आने वाली तीनों को ही वेब सीरीज में कन्वर्ट किया है.
IIT में पता कि आप उस तरह से परफॉर्म नहीं कर पाए. चेतनानंद की जो
5.7 IIT में मेरी परफॉर्मेंस बहुत खराब थी. 5.7 तो नहीं ना 6.7. और उसमें मेरी गलती भी नहीं, भी गलती है. नई गलती है कि IIT जब मैं गया था बिल्कुल बेमन से गया, मुझे किसी ने फोर्स नहीं किया, मेरे माता पिता ने फोर्स नहीं किया. और उस वक्त बहुत लिमिटेड ऑप्शंस होते थे 1990s में. तो डॉक्टर बनिए, इंजीनियरिंग ग्रेजुएशन यही सी बेसिकली.
Many of you know is a poem by Amer Bachchan, which also became a movie, was remade as a movie, and that's what the name of the scheme is. Agniveer, I tried to, whatever my knowledge of Hindi and Sanskrit is, I tried to find out what Agniveer means, and I actually could not find out what it means, because Agni and Veer does not go together, even if you do the Sandhi of the two words. So what exactly is the Agnipath scheme? The Agnipath scheme is a short-term contractual scheme for recruitment of soldiers, where soldiers, young men, would be recruited for a period of 4 years. And they will not be recruited as sepoys, or as airmen, or as sailors. They would be recruited in an absolutely new rank which has been created, that will be called Agniveer. There would be a totally separate pay scale from regular soldiers which has been created for them. The kind of perks and privileges which are available to them are different from regular soldiers. For example,
ये है कि हाल ही में ऐसा हुआ कि राहुल गांधी जी के खिलाफ किसी के चैनल के एक एंकर ने कुछ कह दिया, वो वीडियो मॉर्फ कर दी. उन्होंने कहा कि राहुल गांधी जी ने कहा है जयपुर में जो बहुत ही विभत्स घटना हुई है उसको माफ कर दिया जाए. झूठ था, ये झूठी वीडियो थी. तो केस फाइल हो गए. खैर उनकी बेल की याचिका सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आई, जमानत की उनकी याचिका उस एंकर की. अब सबसे जबरदस्त ये लिस्टिंग के बारे में भी बताएगा किस्सा हमें, और इज्जत के बारे में भी बताएगा कि जब बहस शुरू हुई उस एंकर की, तब वकील ने बताया कि साहब सच साफ बता देना चाहिए, एक्चुअली हमने इसमें पिटीशन फाइल करी ही नहीं थी. तो उन्होंने करी ही नहीं याचिका फाइल, बिना करे उनकी बेल लिस्ट हो गई. देखिए ये क्या कुदरत का करिश्मा है. अगर आप
हमेशा सोचती थी कि इन लोगों की तकलीफों को कब कौन आवाज देगा, इन लोगों की बात आखिर कब सुनी जाएगी. मेरे परिवार में कोई भी पत्रकार नहीं है, ज्यादातर डॉक्टर्स हैं, इंजीनियर्स हैं और बिजनेस में हैं. मेरे पिता भी बिजनेस में होते थे. जब मैंने उनसे कहा कि मैं पत्रकारिता, लेकिन तुम्हारा रोजगार क्या होगा, क्योंकि सोचिए 20-22 साल पहले पत्रकारिता को बहुत गंभीरता से नहीं लिया जाता था, खासकर छोटे शहरों में. तो फिर जब मैंने उससे दोबारा इंसिस्ट किया कि मैं करना चाहती हूँ, तो उन्होंने कहा कि हम अखबार निकाल देंगे. यानी उन्हें लगा कि शायद मेरा कोई ये शौक है। तो मैं लेकिन हमेशा ये समझती थी कि जब मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि पत्रकारिता क्या होती है, तभी मैं समझती थी कि जो कमज़ोर लोग हैं, उनकी आवाज़ को राष्ट्रीय पटल पर पहुंचाना बहुत ज़रूरी है।
No, it's a it's the one of the most intimate mediums because it's directly coming into your ears and it's a really intimate relationship. So that is what always stayed with me, and as the podcasting boom took off in the West, I began to listen to many podcasts. The podcast I listen to very often is The Daily by the New York Times, with this host called Michael Barbaro. He interviews journalists from New York Times about the big story of the day. So it's very interesting that you read the story in print and then you hear those journalists talk about the stories and the different angles that they bring to it. So that was really the reason I wanted to do the podcast, and I think it's a great medium for journalists and of course for listeners too.
I think maybe you should do more of it if you don't.
Beautiful. So Meenal is credited with co-founding the podcast division at Times of India, and that's a big thing, right?
Oh, sir, that's a very interesting topic actually. I want to ask you, let's say, you get the power for one day, and it is up to you to stop this access journalism and make journalists who they truly are. What would you do?
I didn't get your question.
Okay. My question is that yes, there is access journalism, and there's a lot of the news is flooded with stupid items instead of the real news.
Right.
You get the power for one day
Right.
to stop this, to do something about it. What would you do?
Well, you switch off the mics for politicians for one day, and a lot of people are doing that. I think some of those people are here. Some very good journalism has happened during COVID. Some very good journalism happened during the Kisan agitation. People spent days and days and days talking to farmers. Some very good journalism came out of that. None of those people were netas. And I think during the last 2 or 3 years of you try to invent every day some new agenda in the TV studios, and just the act of averting your cameras from an event like not an event.
मतलब वो thoughts आने लगे दिमाग में, and उसकी immediately बाद I had to, I spoke to my editor and he said कि इस बार this is not safe. Return, come back to Delhi. And that's how I lost my story, which could have been a good story.
So that's the first time that you kind of faced an offline possible threat. Online, do you remember the first story that led to this barrage of press and bullying?
So I don't remember the first story because this has been happening for quite a while now. It's been almost 3-4 years since this has been happening, and I have been active on Twitter. जब से मैं active हुई हूँ, मुझे लगता है कि तब से ही all of these trolls have started. A lot of times क्या होता है कि आप story कुछ कर रहे हैं और लोग उसके ऊपर आपको they will call you names, और कई बार मेरे साथ ये होता है ना, every time I would do a story, तो उसके 2 दिन तक मुझे मेरा inbox जो other inbox होता है उसमें line से गालियाँ, abusive words, like things like that would, and after a point it became very normal, like.
But I'm sorry, I'm interjecting,
Yeah.
but could you share with the audience maybe one of the stories, earlier stories that you remember, which attracted a lot of these hate?
Correct. So I'll talk about, so during the anti-CA protests which were happening at Jamia, उस टाइम पे I don't know if you guys remember, but उस टाइम पे एक shooting incident हुआ था, वहाँ पे गोली चला दी थी, one individual had shot at somebody. उसके so एक student को injury भी हुई थी, काफी severe injury हुई थी. So I remember that I was there at the spot, और उस वक्त एक mainstream television channel में एक वो शो चला कि जामिया के CA protesters ने गोली चला दी है. And I'm there at the spot, and I know for a fact that he was not a Jamia student. That show continued on for 30 minutes. And I put it out on Twitter that this is wrong, like this is clean wrong. And that is the problem with television today, that, there is hardly any corroboration.
It was the line of a Pepsi Cola jingle, and Vikram Batra converted it into a national slogan. And for me, the biggest honor of my life was that I was able to do an interview that actually became the stuff of legend, on which movies were made, which every person, none of you were even born in 1999, and yet you know the line there, then Manke Bo. So what could be more satisfying for a journalist than to have been able to be the person who captured that? अब आप फास्ट फॉरवर्ड करके आ जाइए कि ऐसी कहानियां बहुत हैं और मैं आप लोगों से सुनना चाहती हूँ. At some point, मैंने टीवी छोड़ दी.
Emotional. I would just cry. And some people would say, because you know, you will get criticism, drama कर रही है, and things like that.
वो लड़कियों की बात कर जाता है, लड़कों की.
हाँ, exactly. That's the bias there. So, but that's my natural self. I would do that क्योंकि मैं लिखते समय भी शायद वैसा ही फील कर रही थी और सुनाते समय शायद जब manifestation हो गया उन feelings का, I was doing that. So, before these corona years, these 2 years have been really difficult because मैं stage पर नहीं जा पाई. I was literally asking भगवान मेरे को stage पर जाना है, वापस look मिल गया. So there's that some spiritual thing that I do. Okay. जो भी है. So Mr. Saurav Dwivedi came and he asked me to make this show, जो मैं अभी continuously बना रही हूँ, and I've been continuously posting about mental health and how I identify myself as a hypersensitive person. And hypersensitivity and journalism, they don't go hand in hand. I am getting this overwhelming response from people. Thank you so much for talking about it. I'm suffering from this person. This episode has helped me. I've done some episodes on procrastination, toxic positivity, and the upcoming episode is on how to say no, because it happens a lot in our profession. You know, we just take in a lot. जितना हमारे बस में भी maybe, and we don't think about कि हम किस तरह से अपने आप को abandon कर देते हैं, you know, just saying yes to everything because we feel guilty कि कहीं हमारी नौकरी ना चली जाए. That's the and this imposter syndrome, that's very much there, especially in the women. You know, जो journalism में presented. Even Michelle Obama said in one of the speeches she gave, I still feel like an imposter. So in journalism also, जब मैंने लोगों से पूछा कि आपको ऐसा होता है, I take interviews. Even I talk to my colleagues, उनसे बात करती हूँ, हाँ यार ये मेरे साथ भी होता है, ऐसा भी होता है, and this gives me so much confidence to keep forward and keep doing this thing. And exactly, I have to say the topics what you have covered.
But unfortunately, because we're not doing anything, so it comes to this point where functionality gets affected because you're just living your day-to-day life in denial as to you being in a problem. So it hit me in the face when I was in 2017, and you know, I got this massive panic attack, and there was nothing I could do about it. That was the moment I realized that you know, I need to do something about this because now I'm not feeling functional.
What kind of challenges we had, right? Just now when I saw the girl breaking down here, her challenge itself is to probably come to the stage and talk. You know, Shadi is another thing. For here itself, okay, where do you go? But the questions probably she has to go back and face. The acceptance starts there, and I think this COVID gave us all the fundamental feelings were shaken. You know, this happy, sad, anger, fear. Fear was the most dominated one, of course, and none of us, I believe, are not psychologically educated how to manage and how to deal with our emotions. Be it just these four fundamentals, whether it is happy, sad, or anger and fear. How many of us are willing to express our anger, express our sadness? It's as equal as, you know, ladki ki tarah mat raho, right? Don't cry. I'm sorry, my Hindi is bad, but don't cry like a girl. Why? Why not? Crying is an expression, a pure form of expressing.
Thank you for
saying feeling.
And equally, in not encouraging boys to embrace their emotion or men to embrace their emotion, you stifle them emotion.